volunteering to work the elections. We have 4 polling places now, and in total we have about 60 of you that help run this. And without you, we wouldn't be able to run this. 'Cause Colleen and I try to run things a lot on our own, and it doesn't always work. And especially at 4 places, we can't be in all 4 places. Haven't quite figured out how to do that one yet. So we're gonna get started. We'll try to get you guys out of here as soon as we can. But this is important information that we need you guys to know, since you are the one running the election. You need to be on top of your game. And in order to do that, we need to get through all of it. So. There we go. All right, so polling places are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on election day. 8 p.m., sorry. 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're already off to a great start. In Verona, we have 3 shifts. So we have the 6:30 to about 2:30, 2:15 to close, which hopefully is not any later than 9:30, but it all depends on the election and if everything runs smoothly. We have been known to be here till 1 a.m. Hopefully that's not anymore. That was before we got the batch of books. And then we have a shift that runs all day. We try very hard not to have you guys work all day long, but sometimes it is needed if we're short-staffed or for our chief inspectors who it just works better for them with paperwork and everything to be there all day long to be able to keep track of everything that's happening. Each political party is entitled to submit nominations for election inspectors. Some of you are those nominations. So for, I think it's just the beginning of the year, we will get a nomination list from each party, and then we'll contact you guys to see if you are really wanting to work and what that all entails, and then you get on our list. Though you may be appointed by a political party to serve on election day, you are expected to carry out election duties as a nonpartisan party. So just like we'll get to a part of electioneering, obviously you might have a party preference, but while we're running the elections, we can't let that be known. Just some general information. You should have received your schedule for election day. If you did not, it is in the back towards the back of your packet. If you have something that comes up, please let Holly or I know as soon as possible so we can move people around, try and get other people to come and work. And I think at the end of the packet, our numbers are in there. So if you need to call, text, email us, whatever, on election day, please try to call or text us so we get the info right away. Though you may be assigned a specific task, your chief inspectors may move you around throughout the day to get used to other areas or allow other people to try and do the different tasks. We have quite a few new people, so moving around will help you figure out where you fit best, and so in future elections, we can maybe put you in a different spot than we did this time. We will provide sandwiches, chips, and cookies for lunch and dinner. If you would like to bring something else, feel free to. Not at all of our locations will have access to a fridge though, so if you do bring your own things, make sure to bring in a lunchbox or cooler, whatever you like. Chief inspectors will ensure that everyone has a break. We will do our best to make it timely, but as different times fluctuate, you know, the lunch hour is a big time for people to come in. So you might have a little earlier lunch or later lunch, whatever you do, we will get you a little break though. Completed copies of your employment paperwork must be done before election day, which I think we got most of you.
I think we got one.
Okay,
We have one.
we are good.
One left, just kidding.
Just watch.
She's not here. She's not.
All right, so we have 4 polling places now. We have Good Shepherd, Sugar River, the library, and City Hall. So we are kind of spread out around the map now. A lot of people are asking why?
Yeah.
Because Verona's growing, and we don't have enough space. I mean, for those who have been working elections, you know that sometimes people are waiting in line for quite a long time. So now we're going to about roughly 6,000 at a polling place to around 2,500. So people should hopefully be able to get in and out much faster. Over at, I think it's Good, yeah, it's Good Shepherd. That one's even a little lower because of all the big developments that will be coming over the next year or two out there. There will be a lot of people, so this election might feel really slow, but in the coming years, it will be very busy. And the voter can only vote at their assigned polling location. So on a couple of your places, there will be people that are just there to check addresses, because just about everybody has moved locations, and people are going to be confused and possibly a little grumpy. So this is the new ward map. As you can see, we have grown a lot, between 12 down here with the Cathedral Point area. 13 is not developed yet, but it will be shortly. 16 is already in the works. 4 is up there in the works as well, so we are continually growing a lot. Electioneering. So electioneering is any activity intended to influence voting at an election. Electioneering is prohibited on public or property within 100 feet of the polling entrance. So they do have to be at least 100 feet away, which in reality isn't as far as one thinks it is. So I don't remember any election where we've had people electioneering here in Verona, but it's a new presidential year. You never know what'll happen. There is an expectation for electioneering, or exception for election-related bumper stickers. So we can't exactly tell those people to go park farther away. They're okay. If you guys do find some electioneering, give Holly or I a call, or tell your chief inspectors to give us a call, and we'll come and just scope it out, make sure everything's going okay.
When we're talking electioneering, I would say make a judgment call. We don't want like active electioneering with somebody outside with a big sign for a candidate, waving flags for their candidate within 100 feet of the polling place. But if somebody comes in and they have maybe a hat or a button or something on, although that's technically not allowed, I would say just get them in, get them voting, and get them out. I think having them remove whatever they're wearing that is for either a candidate or a party is going to draw more attention, and possibly disturb the voting process. So we don't see too much of this, but every now and again you'll see somebody, like hats are big, t-shirts are getting big too. So I would just let them vote, don't cause a scene, and get them out, so.
Are you gonna, after they voted, mention to them that what they're wearing is not legal?
So the question is, after they're voting, should you mention to them what they're wearing is not legal?
Not me, but maybe the.
Maybe the chief inspector, again, judgment call on your part. I don't think that we wanna make it a bigger deal probably than it is.
Well, you won't see him again.
We don't wanna be on the news.
The intent is we don't want them influenced, okay, so the intent of the statute is, we don't want them influencing other voters' choices. So if they're not actively like going up to voters or, causing a scene, I don't know if that's the right word for it, but if they're simply wearing something and they're just voting and leaving, I think we should just let that be.
Are the new polling places considered public and private?
The new polling places are considered public because there are polling places on election day.
Yeah, so a polling place is a public place. no matter what building it's in. Your chief inspectors. Over at Sugar River is Rita Martin. Rita, can you stand up? So if you work over at Sugar River, this will be your chief inspector. Good Shepherd, Lutheran, Paula. Paula, can you stand up? Over at City Hall is Teresa Smith. And then over at the library is Erin. Hey. So these are the people who are in charge on election day. They technically trump Holly and I on election day at your polling locations. They will make the final call as they see fit. So if you guys have anything that comes up during your shift, those are the people you go to. And we will, if you come to Holly or I, we will ask if you've gone to them first, because they are the ones in charge. If they need help making a decision, then they'll reach out to us, but otherwise, we let them run. They are in charge. All right, so the different election positions. So over at City Hall in the library, we've added a position for an address checker, because those are our two older polling locations that everybody voted at, that now everybody has moved from. Except for over here at City Hall, they actually, some of them stayed there. Otherwise, everybody else has moved somewhere else. So those people, if you are scheduled as the address checker, I will have a laptop for you. I will go through this later on in the training. But you will just be asking everybody what their address is and trying to check them as they come through. If you don't get everybody, that's fine. But basically what we're trying to do is make it so they don't get all the way up to the Badger Books and have waited in line for 10 minutes, just to find out they have to drive all the way over to Good Shepherd and then wait in line again. So we're trying to catch those people, hopefully to then not make people as angry for having to go someplace else. And I have little cards for you to hand them, so they will know exactly where they go. As well as Madison locations and other surrounding locations of people that normally show up at our polling locations. And over at Good Shepherd, you guys are right down the road from Town Hall, or the town of Verona. We will have flags up saying vote here. You might have people that show up that are actually down at the town. So, especially if you are one of the greeters over there, you might wanna ask them, are you in the city or the town? You might also get arguments on that, because sometimes people really don't know if they're in the city or the town. But at least we can try to round them off and send them down the road. And the greeters, you will welcome voters, manage the line, make sure that they get out their ID before they get up to the table. That will just help speed things along rather than them fumbling through their purse or their wallet to try and pull it out. And it is really helpful if they pull it out of their wallet or their purse instead of just flopping it open. Because sometimes the people on the Badger Books like to hold it to be able to see it better, to type it. So actually having it out of whatever they have it in is helpful. If the voter is unsure of the right polling place, again, we'll have laptops for you to check it on My Vote. We'll have big posters of the maps up so they can find themselves on the map, see what ward they're in, and make sure they're in the right spot there. And we'll go over a couple other ways of figuring that out as well. The lines, if you remember a few years back before COVID, the paper poll books, you always had to go to your letter. These you don't. Go to any line, get checked in, so that helps speed things along a lot. We will have 2 Badger Books going at each location instead of the normal 4, since we have less people at each polling place. There will be a 3rd one set up for the chief inspectors to jump on and off as needed, but only 2 all the time. So Badger Books, we're gonna run through how the Badger Books work, for all of you who will be on the Badger Book. So, and for those who are new, we're gonna go over how the Badger Books actually run. So the server is the brains of it. It's the one who powers all the other ones. If this one gets shut off, nothing else works. So that one, we always make sure somebody's on, somebody is using to keep it awake. That one, if it gets damaged or anything, we are out of luck and have to go back to paper. So we are very protective of that one. It does record the data I can't remember if it's every 10 seconds or something, but it records it quite often. So that way it keeps it up to date. If something were to happen, it will have the most up to date backup on it. How is it connected? They are connected through their own secure data network, kind of like a Bluetooth. So it's not connected to the internet. If somebody, it's hard to get in, I mean, you have to be a good hacker to know how to get onto something that's not connected to the internet. I don't know how to. So it's very secure. It's only within that polling location. So Badger Books from City Hall do not talk to Badger Books to the library. So when they have to go to their polling location to vote, it will tell you that they have to go to that location because you can't even process them at the wrong location. So to check in a voter, these Badger Books tell you step by step how to do each job. So it's very easy to work through. It'll say right on there, state your name and address. A side note on this, I normally look at their driver's license first, type it in, pull them up, because if they state an address that is not listed, then they have to re-register. Where on this screen, you don't know what address they're registered at yet. So I normally click the green button to go to the next screen, and then you can start typing in their first and last name. You only have to type in a few letters and it will generate. So it's thinking as you're typing. So if you have, like this one, it's an F-A, so you start typing in F-A and then tab over to the first name, start typing in K-E, and it will pop those ones up. So it works very quickly. And then this is a screen where I would ask them to state, so that way you can actually look and see what address they are registered at. On this screen, you will see that it pulls up other people from Eau Claire and Mayville. This is pulling up the entire state of Wisconsin. So if they are really in the wrong polling place, it will tell you. So you would just hit select voter once you find your voter over there. This example is from DeForest. So the white ones are our polling location. So that will be all the Verona, City of Verona residents. The yellow will be anybody who is outside of the City of Verona. So then you will notice these options over here on your right. The update name, update address. So as people are checking in, if they have a misspelling of a name, you can do that. If they have an entirely different name, so say somebody got married, changed their last name, they need to re-register under that new name. If they have an updated address, they will obviously have to re-register. But clicking either of those buttons will walk you through step by step how to do each of those.
They can re-register right there at the same.
Yep, they can register right there. There is no separate registration. So everything just happens right at that table. So if you hit a button that says redirect, so somebody who's in the wrong location, it will pop up and tell you exactly where that person votes. So that's when you can give them a little card with that matches where that is. I should have all of those made up, if they're anywhere around the Verona area. If they're really wrong, then they're out of luck. But that'll tell you exactly where they need to head to vote. If this is happening at the very end of election day and they're going from one of our locations to another location, tell your chief inspector so they can call the other location to say, hey, I got one coming your way. They're okay to vote. And so that way they have a little bit of a heads up that, Okay, somebody's coming at the very last second. So with a misspelling, when you hit update name, it will ask you if it's a misspelling of the name or a complete name change. If it's a misspelling, it will just take a note, and then I will see that later on and I can go into their thing and just correct the spelling of it. Otherwise, if it's a complete name change, they do have to re-register. And this is what the little note box looks like. So, again, just type their correct spelling in there and we'll fix it later. Now, but they can still go under the wrong spelling name. That doesn't disqualify them or anything, because that's our key error.
So, you want both misspelled name and the correct spelling? In the notes?
No, just the correct spelling. I only need the correct spelling of the name in the notes,
Okay,
because it will pop up under their
okay.
misspelled thing. So I will know exactly who it goes to. And it will actually have like your voter ID and everything for me, so I will have all the info I need. It's a very smart machine. Alright, once you get to select of the ID, so after you pick your voter, you selected them, said, yep, this is the voter who's in front of me voting, it'll ask you to select what type of ID they have shown you. Most commonly, it's gonna be their driver's license or passport. There are quite a few Epic employees who don't have Wisconsin driver's license yet. All of them have been told, or all that we have had contact with, to bring their passport. So they do know ahead of time to have that. So those are gonna be your two main ones of people. But as you can see, there are other options that people can use. We haven't seen, once in a while, I'll get like, one of the, veteran cards, but not very often. We don't really get a lot of the, which one is it? The Wisconsin college student ones, more Madison gets those. Every once in a while, we might.
Wisconsin State ID.
Yes, but that's the Wisconsin College Student University one is the one that we don't get too often. The Wisconsin State ID, driver's license, those ones are pretty common. Any questions on those?
And all of these IDs, they need to be current, and if they are expired, they have to have expired after the last general election. So this information will be at the poll book table. We'll have like a picture card that has all the IDs that a person could use as photo ID. So if their driver's license is expired, that's okay, but it has to have expired after November 4th, don't quote me, November something, 2022. I think it's the 4th though. We'll have that date at the poll book tables. So when you're looking at the ID, you're looking at the name, you're also looking at the expiration date as well. Some of them don't expire. I think the Wisconsin ID card, for some people that have like given up their driver privileges, that one never expires. I don't think the veterans ID card expires either. So if it has an expiration date on it, make sure it's not expired, and if it is, that it expired after the last general election.
And then what happens to that person?
So if they have an ID that's expired and it's too far expired, good question. So they would not be able to vote with that ID. They would have to either come up with some other form of ID, so maybe they showed you an expired driver's license, but they have a passport at home. They could go home and get their passport. If not, there is the option for them to vote provisionally. So I don't think we have these in the slides because we did our chief inspector training already, and those are the folks who usually take care of provisional ballots. So I would say direct that person to your chief inspector at the polling place. There is an option for them to vote a ballot, seal it up, it doesn't get counted that day, and they have until Friday at 4 p.m. to provide us with an unexpired ID. So if they do provide that to us, then we would count that ballot at our Board of Canvassers meeting, which happens after the election.
Paper ID okay?
Yes, paper ID is okay. So when you get your driver's license or a state issued ID card now at the DMV, they give you that piece of paper, instead of getting the physical card. So again, as long as it's not expired or too far, you can't have one from like 2020, that's, I'm sure, has coffee stains and dirt marks and whatever else on it. But yes, that is an acceptable form.
All right, after that screen, then this will pop up, and it will actually give you the expiration date that you're looking for right there.
Ah,
Yes,
there we go.
next screen. So that'll be there, their name will be there. If that all looks correct, you'll hit acceptable. Then the Badger books actually have a rotating screen, so you'll spin it around. They will sign either with their finger or with a stylus that we have there. They'll sign it, hit done. Either you or them the voter can hit done. It doesn't really matter. And then, you'll hit accept signature. If for some reason they cannot sign, you'll just put a little squiggle to be able to hit done. But then on the next screen, you can choose, voter is physically unable to sign. Or if they are a curbside voter that you're helping process through, you'll hit the curbside and it will fill it in for you saying that they're exempt from signing or that they're a curbside voter. And if they have an assister, somebody who actually helps sign, not just somebody who's walking alongside of them, somebody who's physically helping them sign the Badger book, then you would put that person's information in here. Their name and their address. That's what it looks like if you choose curbside voter.
Question.
Yeah.
On the assister, does it matter if they're does their address matter where it is?
No,
Okay.
no, their address does, the assister's address does not matter where they are from.
And is it still 28 days that they have to make a current residence?
Yes, 28 days that they have to be at their current residence. Yes, if they are less than 28 days, they have to go back to their old location to vote there. And then, once you hit the acceptable signature line or button, it will take you here. That's when it will spit out their tally slip, just like a receipt. A slight change for the new Badger books that we got. They don't have the ones with the printer and stand anymore, so it's a separate sheet. So, no more grabbing it at the stand, it'll be on the side. So, some of your places will have it in the stand, some will have it on the side. Just whichever you're at is where you'll grab it. You'll hit finish next voter. Make sure the slide stays up until the tally slip actually prints. Because if it jams or something, you'll have to grab a sheet of paper to write their tally number down so they can take it over to the ballot table to get their ballot. Because if they don't have that, then the ballot person's not gonna be the ballot. So wait till that prints and you hand it to them, hit finish next voter. And this is what the tally slips look like. So it'll have their ward number, ballot style is going to be either white or green if there's more than one ballot, otherwise it's just always white. Over at, Good Shepherd and, Sugar River, Sugar Creek, Sugar River. I'm always getting those confused. There technically are 2 ballots at those locations. Ward 13 has its own ballot, but there are only 4 voters in that location, and we don't even know if they still live there. The other location, wards 14 through 16, have their own ballot, but there are 0 people that live there currently. So you technically have 2 ballots, but you're not really going to use the other ones. If you have somebody that comes up with a little card that says confidential voter, these are people who have registered with the state and have gotten all of the right affidavits that they need to because of different situations that they're in, whether it's home abuse or whatever the reasoning is that they don't want people to know where they live, they can register as a confidential voter. So they just have to walk up and show you their card. They do not have to state their name and address out loud, and that they do not have to show you ID. Because that's the whole reason for them being confidential, is they don't want people to know that. If they come up, and we do have quite a few actually.
Yeah, I wanna say we have like 8 right now.
Yeah, I think we have 8. So it's very possible that they will come up. There are quite a few of them that do go, by mail instead of coming in, but there are a few that do like to come in. If they do, you'll hit right below here, the confidential voter. And then it will add a confidential voter number space. That's where you'll type in the number that's on their card, and then their information will pop up for you. And then you'll just go through. This is what, the card looks like. It might have changed slightly since this is from 2016. But all that same information would be on there. So it will have their name, their, special number, and then it will have, does it have your signature on it at all?
Yeah, on the back side, it will have my signature on it, so it's, typically, I think I laminate them.
Yeah.
So it's just, it kind of does look unofficial, not very
Yeah,
nice. So
yeah,
it's-
they do look
It's
kind
a
of
white
sketchy.
paper card with my handwriting on it that has the name of the person, their confidential serial number, and then my signature on the back of it.
Yeah, I don't think any of them out there yet have mine from before. I think they all have yours
Kayla
now.
or mine, but I think typically they have mine.
Yes,
And we should not ask them for their name or anything if they give us that.
correct.
No, nothing, because they should not have to state it in the polling.
Yes, she was just reiterating that if they showed you that card, we do not ask them to state their name and address or ask for ID.
Or board number, or anything.
No.
The word number and everything will pop up once you enter that in. So the system will know all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're already registered. If somebody wants to register as a confidential voter, they cannot do it on election day. It's a process that will have to be done after. All right, so registering a person, if somebody comes and they either tell you, hey, I just moved here, or they say, you ask them to state their name and address, and the address they give you is not what is listed in the Badger book, you would hit the update address button. It'll ask you for their proof of residency. These are all the different options that people can use, and it is okay for them to pull it up on their phone to show you. So most common would be like a bank statement, a credit card statement. If their driver's license has their current address on it, then that works as well. Utility bills, so if they have like their water and sewer from Verona, a phone bill, Alliance, MGE, one of those, their paycheck, real estate tax bill, the residential lease is another one we see a lot. Sometimes they will come in with a letter from us because they don't have anything else and we've sent them a letter. So if they have it with our heading on it, then that's a government letter, so it's official. So just one of those, but if it's not fitting in one of those, then it's not one of the ones that we can use. So they can't come in with just any junk mail, it has to be one of those. And if you're looking at your list, having trouble deciding, call over your chief inspector and have them check to see if it fits. Otherwise they will have to come up with something else. Then you'll have to fill in what they chose, so this one, bank statement, they did UW credit, and then it asks for an account number, just any 4 numbers on there is fine. It's not like we can double check to make sure they give us the right account number. On the next screen, it'll have their name, last name, first name, middle initial, birth date, Email and phone number are optional, but are very helpful for us. So don't push it, but if they're willing to give it, then please add it in. Cause we have a lot of times where we get they vote by mail, their ballot is incomplete, the envelope. Well, if I don't have a way of contacting them, it makes it a little difficult. And then I basically just have to mail it back to them, where if I can call them and say, hey, something's wrong, can you come in? It works a lot faster. This next screen for adding the address, you'll start typing in a number, so like 709, and it will pop up every address in Verona with that house number. I have been working very diligently on getting all these new addresses in there. So hopefully they're all in there and it will pop up. If it does, you'll click that and go on to the next step. If not, we'll walk through how you can create a new address by clicking down below. I will say if it's an apartment number, there are a lot of them. So just keep typing out the full address and it should pop up for you. It might not pop up right in the list because it only shows you so many, but so you might have to type out the whole, 411 Lincoln Street or whatever it is to get the right apartment number. Once you do have the correct address in the dropdown, you'll hit continue to step 4, which will then lead you to a series of questions. You do need to ask them those questions. Read through them all, ask them. Most of them will be fine. Are you a citizen? Yes. Are you at least 18? Yes. Do you have a Wisconsin driver's license? You will have to put in their Wisconsin driver's license. Even if it is expired, it needs to go in there. If they have one, it needs to be in there. If they do not have a Wisconsin driver's license at all, so say they just moved here from Florida, but they brought their passport as their ID, then, it would still be the last word of their social, or, yes. So then you would hit no, if they, so say they have a Florida ID, but have their passport as their photo ID for voting, you would hit no and it would ask for the last 4 of their social. So then you type that in. Has this resident, this is an old slide, that should say 28, not 10. 28 days at their new residence. And then you'll hit yes or no there. Hopefully it's yes, otherwise if it's no, it won't let you go. Are you currently serving a sentence? This one gets a little awkward sometimes. But are you currently serving a sentence? That one hopefully should be no. And are you otherwise disqualified from voting? Nobody knows exactly what that means, but we have to ask it, so that one should be no as well. You'll hit step 5. This is where I want you guys to turn around the screen, have them look through to make sure everything was entered correctly. They didn't, mistype their name or whatever. They'll go through, they'll say, yep, everything's correct. Continue to step 6. And then this will, if you had to type in a new address, it will ask you to add this information. This information is where you will have to, possibly work with your chief inspector if you don't know how to figure it out. But basically you'll have to either go over to the map that's out in the lobby area and figure out what ward it's in. And hopefully you have already figured this out before you've gotten here, because it would be terrible for you to get all the way here and realize, oh, you don't vote at this location. So hopefully before you get to this point, you've already figured out what ward it is. And for the address checkers and for the graders, if you do help somebody figure this out, maybe grab a sticky note or something and write down which ward it is and tell them to give this to the poll people when you send them up there, so that way they'll have it already. So you'll pick a board, pick the school district. Thankfully we only have one, so there's only one choice. And then the ballot style, I think there should only be one choice on that. If there's more than one, choose one. I don't think it really matters at this point. I've never had an issue with it, it's always been one for me, so. This next screen is for them to verify the information that they were just looking at. And you have to make sure that that little mark gets clicked. Voter signs on the top line. You, as the election inspector, the one working the Badger book, will sign on the bottom line. And then you'll hit continue. Now at this point, question?
Does it matter who checks the box?
No, it does not matter who checks the box. You or the voter, just make sure it's checked. This one, if you do not hit the continue to check voter in, that information that you all just did, it's still there, but you can't get to it anymore. So if you go through all of that and then they say, oh, but I don't know who to vote for, I wanna come back a little later, they have to go through all of that again. So, unless they, just got a phone call saying their mother was dying or something, they should vote. Otherwise, and let them know that, like, if you come back, you're gonna have to go through all of this again. Because even though it's in the Badger book, they don't have a way for us to access it at that moment. I will see it on the back end, but not on election day while you're working this. So you'll hit the continue to check in voter, and then it will lead you through the check-in voter process. So you won't have to look them back up, it will bring you right to them, and then you'll just click through those steps to get their choice. For voters registering, you'll need to refer to the ineligible voter list. So there is a giant list of felons that are in Wisconsin that are not able to vote. Now, we have had people who come and say, I just got off yesterday, because we print this, we'll probably print it tomorrow. So, if they just get off, the day before the election, or the day of the election, tell your chief inspector will call us, we have a number to call to verify that they have been taken off, that they're okay to vote. So, if they are on the list and they're like, no, I'm okay, we'll verify it and they'll be able to vote. But otherwise, if they are on the list, then they cannot vote. So, how to validate an address at your different locations. There's something called the address span book. I don't know if any of you have actually opened it. I have had it in there every year because I have to. But this is a good way to check. So it will list the municipality, odd or even side of the street, the house number range, the street name, address zip, and then the district combo, which this middle number here is what tells you what ward they are. So this one, for instance, is all of Jenna Drive, which is split up all over the place. So you'll figure out what house number they're at, and Jenna Drive is one where it's literally like one side of the street is one ward, the other side of the street is a different ward. So you're gonna have to watch that. These ones should all be in the Badger book, but for example. So like here, those house numbers are Ward 3, but these house numbers are Ward 5. But these ones are Ward 1. So this is a good way to check too. So greeters, you'll have a copy of this. People who are on the address checkers, you'll have one. Badger books, you guys will have one, so you can see that too.
The printed list.
It's a printed list, yes.
How many people on Jenna Drive can literally vote in 3 different places?
No, depending on your address is where you're going to vote.
Right, but I mean,
Yeah, but yes, and you're on Jenna Drive, you can't just say, oh, I vote here. It's, no, I better check where my address is.
so I could vote in a
Yes.
different place than the neighbor across the street.
Yes, yes, you could vote in a different place than your neighbor does across the street. It's very confusing. Another way to do that is on the computers, if you go to Access Dane. I don't know how many of you guys have used Access Dane, but you can look up all your tax information and everything on Access Dane. It's pretty neat to see all the info about your land. But this is another way to look it up, is you'll type in the address, it'll pull it up, and then you can kind of zoom in or zoom out on the map to see kind of what's around the address. So like, these are fun new roads that are coming to Verona, Mocha Way, Blue Ice Pass. But if you zoom out, you'll be able to see, okay, Hemlock Drive is over here, Tamarack Way is over here. So you can kind of then maybe go over to the map out in the lobby with all of the different wards on to find that location, figure out what ward it's in. So that is another roundabout way of doing that. If you guys are really having trouble, tell your chief inspectors can give Holly or I a call and we can probably figure it out pretty fast for you.
Is the ward number's not on the screen anywhere?
No, the ward number will not be on the access date screen.
Just a few, reminders then, for voter registration in general. This is the last slide of voter registration, so I just wanted to, really hit a few of those points home for voter registration. When somebody is registering to vote, they only need one proof of residence, okay? They need one of those documents that has their name and address on it. I know that I've been to polling places before and I've heard people need 2 documents. They only need one as long as they only need one and it has to have their current name, current address, and be on that list. Also, if you are using the address span list, please be very careful when you're using that. You have to look at every single column. Okay, as you saw, Jenna Drive has 2 or 3 different polling places. If you're not looking at every single column, you're gonna send somebody to the wrong polling place and they're probably not going to be happy with you when they show back up at your polling place to then vote. Okay, so if you are using the address span list, please just be very careful. It is a great tool if you use it correctly. And then with all of these new, I just thought of this, with the new streets and new apartment buildings, Kayla's been working really hard to get all of those addresses into WISPO on our end. But in the event that there are some that we've missed, I think it's a good idea, we'll have like some sort of list at the Badger Book tables of common street names or common apartment buildings and a cheat sheet for what ward they're in. So like, the Classic and all those apartment buildings on West Verona Avenue, those new ones, and Church Avenue or street behind there, those all have a ton of units and we have to enter every single unit as an individual address. So if we missed one, I think it's a good idea for us to have a list of all of those and a cheat sheet for which ward they're in. Okay, that's it, sorry.
All right, we're gonna move on to processing the absentees. I think all 4 of our absentee teams have all worked together on absentees before. But just so all of you know how it works, we, during early voting and for all of the ballots that come in through the mail, are all sorted, alphabetized as best as I can do. And then on election day, they are moved to all of the different polling locations. So I know, like Madison, you'll hear the term central count. That's because they are so large that they do all of those ballots, process all of those ballots in one location. For us, we send those each to their locations that they should be according to their ward. And we have a team at each location that processes them while the election is going on. So for those people, do not open the envelope. I repeat, do not open the envelope until you find that voter in the system and they have a number. If we open it, then it makes it very hard for us to fix a problem. And it's difficult to securely move it from one location to the other if it happens to be in the wrong location. And we don't want anybody questioning, why was this ballot open, until it is ready to be processed. So, don't open them until after you state the voter's name and address. So just like if the voter was coming up on election day, stating their name and address, One of you will state the name and the address while the other one looks it up. Verify you have found the right one, and then click the select button. You will also check on the envelopes to make sure that all of the signatures are needed, that the voter has signed and that the witness has signed and printed and put their address. And the voter, if we have one that is not complete, we will do our very best to try and get a hold of that voter to remedy whatever the situation is before 8 p.m. on election day. If we can't, unfortunately, that is not a valid vote, so then we will have to disregard that vote and put it in a separate envelope. And unfortunately, their vote doesn't get to count, so they did not follow the rules. So once you click it, it'll turn blue to let you know, and I want you guys to do this one at a time. Don't go right down the list because it's alphabetical and you can't. I want you to do it one at a time so that way we don't have any mistakes there and accidentally check one in that is not there. You'll click that and then you'll hit submit. And once you do that, it'll turn green and it will give you the voter number. I want you to write on the envelope in a red pen what the voter number is. And then at that point is where you can open up the envelope, take the ballot out, put it in your ballot pile, and then put the empty envelope into another pile to keep them in order. And then every so often, one of you will have to get up, and unless the chief inspector is very bored and decides to do it herself, otherwise, one of you will get up. We have a separate tabulator for just the absentee ballots. So you'll be able to put those in there and then continue processing. And make sure you have a decent stack too, because we don't want to be able to pair up who voted what. So if you have a decent stack, then we don't know. And these are the new envelopes that we have this year. They've been very handy so far. So this first one is what people will get if we mail it to them or if they come to vote in person. So up at the top, you'll see that it says in-person absentee or voter exempt from or meets the POI requirements. So if they're in person, our initials, Holly's or my initials will be over there. If we mail it to them, they will be over on the right-hand side.
Interesting question.
Yes, it was. The next thing you're gonna wanna look at, well, up at the top where it says name, the street address, and everything, that's a label we put on. So it will have all of the voters' information there. Then you'll wanna check to make sure the voter has signed where the yellow voter signature line is. And then down below, a witness signature has to sign, print their name, and put their address, which down there, it tells exactly what the address actually is. We finally got clarification on that. It is the house number, the street name, and the city. So it has to have those three things on there. It does not need to have the state or the zip. It has to only have the first three. These ones, the bluish ones, are for the SVDs. So when we go to care facilities, this is what theirs looks like because they need to have 2 of our SVDs signed as witnesses saying that they have completed their ballot and that they are the ones that voted it. These brownish ones, I guess you could call it, are for the overseas military voters. So these ones, you'll see a lot of as print, as like paper folded up, taped to an envelope, because we have emailed them their ballot, they print it off, and then they have to snail mail it back to us. So a lot of theirs is not an actual envelope like all the rest of them are. Any questions on the envelopes? All right. So the witness address, as I just went over, has to be the street number, street name, and the city. For a ballot distribution, after the voter gets checked in, they'll get their tally slip. And then they will come over to the ballot distribution table, hand you the tally slip, and you will hand them the ballot. But before you do that, you have to make sure that there are 2 sets of initials on the ballot. So under this ballot issued by area, the chief inspector will initial a stack of them for you. You do not initial the ballot until you are actually handing it to a person. So once it has 2 initials on there, then it's a live ballot. If it only has 1, it's not a live ballot yet. So you will initial on the ballot and then you will hand them their ballot. This is a confusing ballot, and we are not gonna take time to try and tell people how it works. They can read on the ballot how it works. If they have a question, they can ask, but otherwise, we're not gonna tell them all of the things, because it'll take way too long and the line will get backed up. We'll go over it with you guys so you know how to answer their questions. But if you're working at the table, I know in the past, we've had you say, okay, do this, do that, or don't do that. We're just gonna let them figure it out unless they have questions. So for a partisan primary presidential preference election, the first thing on the ballot, if you flip towards the back of your packet, there is a sample ballot, for, I think, wards 1 through 3 on there. The first part of the ballot will have you choose either a Democrat or Republican, and then down below we'll have the Democrat and Republican nominees. We ask that people fill that out, just because it helps the tabulator figure it out. So say that they vote in both the Republican and the Democrat. Well, in this election, you can only vote in one party. So if they mark either Republican or Democrat at the top, but still vote in both parties, the tabulator will know which party to look at and will ignore the other party. If they don't, then the tabulator says, oh, you overvoted, and it will spit their ballot back at them so they can correct it. So if they choose that one up at the top, then the tabulator will actually know, okay, I only look at the Democrat or I only look at the Republican, and they can choose. There is a party on there, what was that last one? The uninstructed delegation. So that basically just means that you're giving your vote to the party. And then when the party goes to whatever the convention, and then they decide who they want to have be their person, that's what that vote means. So if they're like, I don't know which one I want to vote for, but I want it to go to this party, well, that would be their choice, that they should choose that. Does that make sense? Everything else on the ballot is all, vote for one except for one of the, school board ones, you can vote for up to 2. And there's 2 people on it, so.
And the referendums over that.
Yes, the referendums are on the back. So it is a 2-sided ballot, so you might wanna tell them that to look at both sides of the ballot. As far as the referendum questions go, we can't answer their questions. So we're not allowed to try and explain any of the questions. If you understand it, kudos to you. I know. But we can't explain it, because the second you start explaining a question, whether you mean to or not, you're gonna kind of give your advice on how they should vote. And we don't wanna do that. The chief inspectors will have a sheet, that the Dane County puts out that is supposed to help explain it. But if you have read it, it might make it more confusing. So, they can have it though.
The State Journal had a good explanation.
Oh, the Wisconsin State Journal had a good explanation in it, so if you're curious, you can look at that. But if they do want more explanation, send them to the chief inspector. They will have copies of that explanation that they can read, and that's about all the information we can give them. Any questions? All right. So the tabulator, very smart machine. Ballots can be put face up, face down, backwards, forward, it doesn't matter, it will read it. Just make sure that the voter stays by the tabulator until you see this screen that says thank you, just to make sure that nothing is going on with your ballot, because it will catch it if there's an overvote, if there is, a cross vote, all of those things, it will catch it and it will pop it up and it will actually tell you which, part of it is wrong. And then the voter can decide, oh, I want to get it back and fix it, or I want to cast my ballot anyways. Have the voter push that button. So that way, if the voters call, they can't come back and say, oh, I didn't want to do that, but they did it anyways. Let the voter hit the buttons. If they do want their ballot back and they can't just fix it on there and they need a new ballot, send them to the chief inspector. The chief inspector has a process of writing that down and getting them a new ballot so they can go vote. And they can have three ballots, no more. And I do suggest if somebody is having a hard time to use our lovely express vote that we will get into soon, because it will only allow you to choose what you can choose and not overvote, as most people do.
Okay, so, this section of the training, we're just gonna talk about, some voter accessibility, tools that we have at the polling locations. This is also a good time to mention that I got a lovely letter from the United States District Attorney. And we will be audited, all of our polling places will be audited for accessibility. So we wanna make sure that everyone knows how to use the accessible voting equipment, how it functions, and, you know, any voter is able to use this equipment. Again, it is universal. We do sometimes use this if we run out of ballots, because this uses a blank card, but ultimately, the express vote is a ballot marking device. So very important, chief inspectors, always make sure you turn it on when the polls open on election, or before the polls open on election day. Okay, this is not gonna do anyone any good if we forget to turn it off. And especially, it's not gonna do anyone any good when we are, having an audit done to make sure that we're using this equipment. So, please turn it on. Like I mentioned, the express vote uses a blank voting card instead of a printed ballots. So if you look at the image there's that kind of long white, card with the right-hand corner cut out. These will also be located at the ballot table. The card should be initialed by 2 election inspectors, just like a regular printed ballot. The ballot is then inserted into the express vote, and the voters can begin voting. The completed voting cards are just like any other ballot, and then they get inserted into the same DS200 tabulator to be counted the exact same way. So the express vote, there are several ways in which a voter with disabilities can use this device to help them mark their ballot. One way is touch screen controls. So if somebody is visually impaired, they can change the contrast of it, so they can make the background black and the text white, which could help somebody see better. It can enlarge the text, so if somebody just has a problem reading small text, they can make it as big as they would like. They can change the language on it if they're not a native English speaker. They can change the language to whatever language, I think Spanish and Hmong, I think are the 2 options available for different languages. I think that's it about the touchscreen controls. So the voter's going to enter, you or the voter are gonna put their card in, then they can make the selections on the screen. So it'll bring up like President of the United States, and it will say under Republicans, it will have, you know, all the candidates listed. They will just touch it with their finger, it will mark the ballot for them.
And make sure you vote.
Yeah, make sure you walk away too, because it's important to give, just like any other voter, that we give people that are using this machine privacy as well. So you don't you know, like stand over hovering them. If they need assistance, you can have them ask you for assistance, don't just expect that they need help. Alright, so that is the touchscreen controls. It can also, there is a little panel that is connected to this. This can be used for somebody who doesn't have like range of motion, so they're not able to actually reach out and touch the screen with their hands. It also has Braille on it as well, so again, if they're visually impaired, it has the Braille controls on it, and it will also, there are headphones, so if they are unable to see, the headphones are plugged in, it will read the ballot to them, and then they can make their choices on this control panel. So there's some basic functions of it. There's the arrows, the select button. You can turn the volume up and down, and you can turn the tempo up and down as well. So you can make it read it faster or slower depending on what needs to be done. So this is just showing voting on the express vote. This is what the screen will display. Once they make their choices, they'll be highlighted in green. After you make a choice, then you'll just select next on the bottom right-hand corner to go to the next screen.
Can they change their mind?
Yes, so you can always go back as well. It's not final until you actually print the card at the end. And you will get a chance to review all of your choices when you get to the end of the ballot. This is basically just saying make sure you put the headphones in so that if anyone is visually impaired that they're able to hear the ballot being read to them. And this is something I honestly didn't know you could do with an express vote. But it is called the sip and puff device. So this would be a device that a voter would bring with them. So they're actually able to control the screen by either sucking on the straw or puffing on the straw to make their choices. So again, this would be something that the voter would bring themselves to use as an assistive device. I've never seen one, but it's a possibility, so just know that it has that capability. Going along with accessibility, so curbside voting, we'll have a curbside voting sign outside of each polling location, so if somebody is unable to enter the polling location due to physical disability, they can call the phone number listed on the curbside voting sign. It will come to my cell phone, and then I will call each polling location to let you know that somebody's outside wanting to do curbside voting. 2 people must always go outside to do a curbside voter. If you have a Republican and a Democrat appointed election inspector, try to have one from each party do that. Not everywhere has those appointed people on the schedule. So 2 poll workers will go out, well first they will announce that they're leaving the polling location to do a curbside voter, or to assist a curbside voter. The 2 poll workers will go to the vehicle and ask to see the voter's ID. If it's an acceptable ID, they'll come back into the polling place and check the voter in and get their ballot. Take the ballot outside, the voter will fill out their ballot. You can put it in the privacy folder so that we're not looking at that voter's choices. And then announce that when you're coming back in, that you are putting a ballot in the tabulator from a curbside voter, just so everyone is aware in the polling place of what's going on and where this ballot came from. Especially if you have observers, you don't want them to be like, where did that strange ballot come from that you just brought in from outside?
So you just stand up
That's a
and,
little sketchy, but
you just stand up and announce to everybody that's in
yeah,
there?
yep. And I mean, it doesn't have to be like, grab my microphone and whatever else. Just, we're going outside to assist a curbside voter, and then 2 of you will go out, and do that. There's no so it says, the statutes do say that a person has to have a disability to use this. However, we're not checking any of that, we're not asking questions. You're just taking it the voter's word. So, just anyone who pulls up and calls the number, is able to do the curbside voting.
You get many of those?
We get a couple per polling location per election, so it's not uncommon. Yeah, what about a rainy day? You might get more on a rainy day or a snowy day. Hopefully we don't have that in April, but you never know. Okay, I think I'll give it back to you.
Alright, so at the end of the night, polls close at 8 p.m. If somebody is in line at 8 p.m., they will get to vote. We will have, the chief inspectors will either assign somebody to be the end of the line, so normally it's like the greeter. Or on bigger elections, we have had, police officers come and be the end of the line. And at 8 o'clock, that person who's gonna be the end of the line gets to the back of the line, and nobody else is allowed to get in line. So if they're coming running in the door and it's 8:01, sorry, that's the cutoff. Do not lock or close the doors, cause as you are finishing up all the election stuff, people can still observe. And candidates cannot be in the polling locations while the election's happening, but they can be there at the end of the election to hear, because the chief inspectors actually have to read off the results. So the candidates can be there to hear the election results be read off. So sometimes they'll show up, they normally don't, but sometimes. And don't start cleaning anything up until your chief inspectors tell you to. They will have, sheets to give each place of what they can do to help clean up and how they want it run. Since we are in so many different locations now, you will clean up everything and just kind of put it in a corner. And then the next morning, we will come by with public works teams and pick everything up. So here's our contact info. You might wanna mark this, slide. Like I said, if anything comes up, use your cell phone numbers to text or call us. Especially if it's the night before the election and you're throwing up your guts. Text us, let us know. Or, I mean, you can call the office. You're gonna be more likely to get us if you call us on our cell phones, since we'll be running around to different locations now. But yeah, before election day, feel free to call us at the office or shoot us an email. Any questions?
I just have one thing to add.
Yeah.
People will be bringing in their absentee ballots to return. If you're a greeter or whatever, please have to see your chief inspector so that they can.
Yes, Erin said that people will be bringing in their absentee ballots on election day, so the ballots we have mailed to them. Send those people to the chief inspector. The chief inspector knows what to look for on the envelope to make sure it's at the right location before they accept it.
You have to be their ballot.
Yes, and it has to be their ballot. Because if you accept one and it's not the right location, then guess what we're gonna do? Drive all around and pick them up and drop them off, so we are trying to route that off as quickly as possible, because they do have to be processed at the correct location. Any other questions? Ooh, lots of them.
What kind of voting machines do we use?
The ES&S, DS200s are the tabulators. Terry?
Yeah, it says that the tabulator could take something out if they skip a contest. With this ballot, there's a lot of unopposed races, so I'm guessing people might skip a lot of.
They might, yes, and it will say you undervoted is what the wording that will show up on the tabulator. And if it says undervoted, they're like, yeah, I didn't wanna vote that one, okay, just cast the ballot.
Okay.
Is video recording or taking pictures in the voting area allowed?
Is there an actual wording on that?
So you can, but you cannot, You cannot, first of all, you cannot take a picture of the ballot, do not post a picture of a ballot, do not post a selfie of you with your ballot. There was a case recently, I can't remember where that was, somewhere north of us, where this, I feel bad for him. He was a school district candidate on the ballot, and he wanted to take a selfie of himself voting for himself. Well, he kinda got thrown the vote and got made an example of, and they actually prosecuted him. So, you cannot take pictures of the ballot, and you cannot, infringe on anyone's privacy to their ballot. But, media can take pictures, I know, and video. I guess I would discourage it, but it is allowed as long as you aren't capturing somebody's private ballot.
In the past, we've kind of tried to get people to be like, here, if you're a first time voter or something, we'll give you your sticker and go out in the lobby where there's like a sign or something.
Yeah, so what Paula said is a lot of time, like, first time voters like to take a, like a selfie of them voting for the first time. We like to encourage them to do that outside of the polling place. Maybe they can take it by the feather flag that says vote here, or by the ward map, once they have their sticker on. Just because we don't, I don't think people are intending to break the law, but they are. So, no ballot selfies. Any other questions? Yes.
On the express vote machine, if you're the ballot distributor, do you put it in the machine or do you just hand it to them and they put it in the machine?
So if you're at the ballot distribution table, you will hand the voter either the printed ballot or the express vote card. Most people are just going to want to take the printed ballot because that's what they're used to. But we will have those cards available for them. Most likely, if you give one of those cards to somebody, the chief inspector will have to direct them on how to use the express vote machine. They should be made available to everyone, but most of the time, people are using printed ballots. Yes?
Are the ballot, or are the tabulators, are they ballot specific? So what I mean is, at our old polling place, we had 3 different districts that voted, and if somebody came to the machine with a ballot that was for someplace else,
Yes.
it would spit it right out.
Yes, so for some reason, if somebody got a ballot that was not a ballot for that polling location, so say maybe they voted, I think the only instance in which this would happen is if they voted absentee and somehow were issued the wrong ballot during like early voting or something. So if somebody was at City Hall, but they accidentally received a ballot from the library, if somebody tried to put a library ballot in through the tabulator, it would not read the other place's ballot. I'm not even gonna get into reading ballots, but just know that it won't read it. Any other questions? Yes?
Are there gonna be any ballots in, let's say, Spanish?
We do
available?
not have any printed ballots in different languages, but again, if somebody needs, Spanish or Hmong, that is available on the express vote. So we wanted to get wrapped up here by 8 o'clock. So the last part of this is if we need to switch from Badger books to paper. I think, go over this in lightning speed. I think everyone wants to get home. So in the event that we have some sort of an electrical outage or for whatever reason the Badger books are not working, we're going to have to switch back to the old-fashioned paper books. So some of you have never probably seen them before, or at least have not worked with them before. So everything that you would enter on the Badger book will be in paper form. So for voter registration, instead of filling out the voter's information on the screen, first you would verify that they're in the correct polling location, and then you would have them fill out a paper form just like we used to, and just like we still do in the office. I'm not gonna go over the paper form, but just know that we will have a stack of paper forms there in case the Badger books do go down. So once Once the voter is either registered or checks in on the paper poll book, they will be issued a tally slip. So instead of the printed, kind of like receipt paper that you get, this is a stack of voter numbers that you rip off and give one to the next voter. That's that. Paper poll books. So for paper poll books, we'll have two books that are printed and they're the exact same book. You and the other person at the Badger Book table or the poll book table will have the exact same book and you're working together. The voter will show their ID just like they do when they're getting checked in on the Badger Book. However, you will flip through a binder of alphabetical names and find the voter there. Again, you should be working together on this because we can't split the books up the way that the statutes read. It has to be two identical lists. If you cannot find a voter's name in the poll book, you would look in the supplemental pages at the back of the poll book because those are people who registered after the deadline. Check the photo ID just like you would during the Badger Book process. Voters will have to sign the poll book. So this is a picture of what a poll book looks like. So it's just a printed book with all the names and addresses of voters. You would write their voter number on that line there. So if you look at the last line for 477, you would put their number there and the voter signs in that box. The box where the voter signs their name above that is upside down to you, but it's right side up to the voter. So all you do is you push the book to them and they sign it. So you don't have to keep flipping the book back and forth. Oh, and for absentee ballots, it's a really cumbersome process. So I hope this never happens. But you have to check the voters in through the poll book, so you would have to take each individual ballot up to the poll book, state their name and address. The poll book people would have to issue them a number. They would write their voter number in red. Oh, you guys don't do it this way.
That's a different process than what we do.
Okay, okay, you use the absentee poll. Sorry, I'm new here. Sorry.
You're after paper.
I've been here for 3 years. Okay, so you would use the absentee poll list to write the absentee numbers in and then transfer the absentee poll list to the poll book. Hopefully we don't ever have to use this. Okay.
Yeah, so then at the end of the night, you would sit there and go through both books to make sure that you both wrote down the same things in both of your books. But the voters only have to sign one of the books. So, yes, like she said, we hope this never, ever happens again because it's a pain. And we love our poll books, our Badger books. They do well for us. Let's see, is there anything else? I think the only other things are in the very back, the last 2 pages. You have your oath of office. So we'll have you all write your name in on the first line and then sign on the signature line. So you can tear out those 2 pages. And then the last page is an information sheet, just so we have emergency contacts for you in case something were to happen, you know who to contact. So if you take a moment to fill both those sheets out, and then we'll have a box out at the table that you signed in at for you to put those in. We'll collect them all that way. Yes.
Will each site have their own power supply in case the lights go out that the battery will stay active for an hour?
The Badger books are plugged into a backup battery. They last 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
So it's enough time for the chief inspector to back it up. If the power is out, then we're switching the paper. And you have flashlights that you'll use. The tabulators will last a little bit longer without power, I can't remember exactly how long they last, but a few hours. So long enough to hopefully get the power back on. But yes, if the power goes out, we go out. We'll get out the flashlights and do it all old school. We do have a few of the Badger books set up in the back. If you're new and would like to play around with it a little bit, all of you have your own sign-in. On the Badger book, the table part of it, it has a little hint sheet for you. Your sign-ins are all the same with your own name. So it'll be your initial and your last name, and then the password would be your initial, last name, 608 exclamation. So should be easy for everybody to remember their names, I hope. So you can sign in back there, use the Badger book if you'd like. Holly or I will wander back there to help as needed, or one of the chief inspectors. But yeah, other than that, I think, unless you have other questions, I think you guys are free to go. Yes?
Firearms? Anybody allowed to carry firearms? Or no firearms in the poll?
I mean, on the buildings, it says no firearms, so
Alright.
they shouldn't, I mean, if they're concealed carrying, you shouldn't see it anyways. So you'll never know, but if they're open carrying, no.
Okay.
I think the only legal place would be Sugar River, because Good Shepherd has a school, so that would disqualify for carrying.
Mm-hmm.
City Hall is disqualified for carrying, I believe the library is disqualified.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I know Sugar River also has the signs up saying
Okay.
no or weapons.
Yes, and I will double check at Sugar, but I want to say that they have a sign that says no firearms as well. I mean, if we're working with, well, I'll leave it at that. Okay, any other questions? Yes. Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for working on election day, like Kayla said. Without you guys, this is not possible, and we really appreciate everything you do. Not to be corny, but like, you guys are the people that make it happen, and it's very important. So, if anybody wants to play with the Badger books, they are back there, or else we will see you in 2 weeks.
In the boxes you gave.